Hi, I'm Delisi.
And I'm Chef James Rigato.
And in this episode of Essential Cooking, we talk with Andrew Blake of Blake's Orchard and Cider Mill. Blake's is a family company based in Armada, Michigan. Their hard cider is widely available across Michigan, and they welcome well over 1 million visitors to their 3 locations each year. Andrew Blake spoke with us about protecting crops from frost in the spring, growing the family business, and finding success during the pandemic. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, it's great to be in person and great to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew's a good buddy of mine, so I wanted to bring him down and talk about all things apples and cider. And, I'm sure you've seen Blake's products around.
Of course.
I mean, they're obviously known for their hard cider, and now they're, their donuts and their bakery. I mean, they're expanding like crazy.
Yeah, and thanks, James. And James and I, crossed paths a year and a half ago or so. And, we started talking about food. And the interesting thing growing up as a third generation farm kid is, you'd think that we'd be a little bit more, in the romance of food. But
right.
Sometimes when you're a farmer and you're just trying to, get the food out of the ground, I talk with James, you kind of lose the romantic, side of food. So, growing up working 7 days a week on the farm, doing the family farming thing, I never really took the time to appreciate, the next step of the food process after you got it out and, and got the raw ingredients shipped out. And, as I'm getting a little older and a little wiser, I'm really starting to take some time to appreciate, what becomes of that food and where it goes. And, James has been a great mentor for me because I always said at Blake's, our whole operation, we're food, beverage, and entertainment. And we have a unique opportunity because, we're the second most visited spot in Metro Detroit behind Comerica Park. So
Wait a second.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's true.
Stop for a second.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You were not going to go by that. So second to Comerica Park.
Yes.
Blake's Orchard is the most visited place in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, in Metro Detroit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So how many? What's the number there? What's your metric?
So at our busiest year the year before the pandemic, we had like 1.8 million visitors at our 3 locations, and so and so I always felt that we have a unique opportunity to connect the general population and the masses and the families with agriculture, with the earth. And, there's definitely people who are, larger farms than us and different types of producers. But I always feel that we have a really unique opportunity to be, kind of a conduit, to people and food and agriculture and farming and the products from which they come. And I always felt, a unique responsibility that, to steward that process and that experience when they're out there. And, the funny thing is growing up a farm, and then, a juice plant, sweet cider plant. And then, out of college, I started the hard cider company. You always really took food for granted. We were just like slinging hot dogs and French fries forever. And we have like all this food. And I talked to James. He's like, why aren't you like showcasing the food? I'm like, I don't know how, as far as how to take the products and then turn them into, something, unique and special and really showcase, the land from which it comes. And so, that's been, an evolution over the past, since I met James, and he's been a great mentor and kind of helping us get our food side and, figured out. But, it's been a great journey. And, we really look at ourselves as an agriculture, company first and foremost. My dad and uncle, we've had a crazy spring as it relates to, frost protection. James and I have been texting. I like ghosted him for like 3 or 4 days on accident. And I'm like, dude, sorry. We've been up all night. So, it's been right on the tip of, freezing for like 2 weeks.
So what did you have to do?
So we
you have how many acres?
1,000 acres.
Okay, so you have to protect 1,000 acres.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
It's a one person operation.
I was like worried about my couple.
Yeah,
of
by himself. He's the only one.
So we're really lucky to have an amazing farm team, and my dad and uncle are still. They don't have offices. They work out of their truck, and it's awesome. I love it. And it's great. Like just a mess. We have Wi-Fi all over the farm now, so it kind of works now. So to protect that, it depends on what the crops are. Predominantly, it's anything in bloom right now. So you're looking at all your fruit, most of your fruit. Veggies, they're not planted yet. So it's really, your tree fruits. Apples are predominant. Right. That's our bread and butter. So that's what gets the most attention. But strawberries are a big one because they're flowering right now. Yep. And the whole process is pretty interesting. So to to answer your question, there's about three methods that you can really frost protect with. So we have these big wind turbines, which are jet engines that are out, in the fields, and they actually pull hot air from up top, and they actually bring it down to where the trees and the plants are, and that will give you about 2 to 3 degrees of protection. We also have, depending on, like in our strawberry fields, we can't do this with apples. There's just too much acreage.
Right.
We could, it would be crazy expensive, but anything that's on the ground, so strawberries, raspberries, anything like that, you basically spray them with water for 12 hours before the freeze. And so when it freezes, they ice up and it creates a protective coating around them. And that gives you like 2 to 3 degrees protection. But you're really only protecting, you only can really get about 3 degrees protection. So,
Right.
If it gets to 27, you're looking at getting some damage, 28. But it's time and temperature. So, and my dad, I don't know if he's correct in this, but he always says if you have 15%, even if you had like 85% damage in your blossoms, you'd still have a full crop. I don't totally think he's accurate with that when he says that. I think it's something like 50-50. But basically the point is you can handle a little freeze and still have a really, really good crop. But, it is interesting when you talk about the changing in agriculture and how things are going. When I was growing up, we could grow very good peaches and pears and stone fruits in where we're at. And just in the time since I was a kid to now, I mean, it is every 4 or 5 years you get a good peach crop in our area, or a good stone fruit crop, and whether.
So instead of every year, it's every 4 or 5
Well,
years.
just because of the weather, fluctuates.
That's
so
amazing.
So
That's
when
a
people,
lot of change.
when people say kind of what's going on in the environment, whatnot, it's like that's really happening. There's real adjustments. Apples, knock on wood, are extremely hardy, and we found it. But there's technology coming out, which is kind of combating that. But it's one of the nice things I've always liked about being a farmer is it kind of keeps you humble.
It's a front row seat to the changing environment.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't believe in climate change, just call a farmer and ask them.
Yeah,
every farmer will tell you
it's real, and it's getting more and more intense, and the swings and the droughts and all of that. What they're a lot of the grape folk are doing out in California. So it's really interesting, but like I said, it keeps you humble, keeps you on your toes, and you can have the best business plan in the world, and you can have it all figured out. And if Mother Earth doesn't want to cooperate that season, you're humbled by it. So
well, Andrew, I want to just interrupt real quick because you kind of touched on it real quickly. But Blake's for the longest time, and I think for 60 of its years, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but was doing cider and donuts and visiting and people showing up with families and wagon rides. And then Andrew was the one that turned them into the hard cider company. So that's kind of a newer evolution.
It's pretty recent.
But it's also become one of your biggest draws now it's by far your biggest reach.
Yeah. For sure. And one of the things that we always tried to struggle with growing up, 1,000 acres, we employ about 900 people seasonally. And we're kind of an entertainment destination, rooted in agriculture and food. But the big problem was, and I think you were talking about it with your last guest, and it is, the shelf life of raw natural food products, so until the hard cider, and it was one of the things I was trying to solve. I wanted to come back to the family business, but we're in apples, we're in stuff that goes bad in like a week tops, 2 days. Wow. So hard to ship, hard to scale, all those sorts of things. Our sweet cider, we do flash pasteurization. I know you guys were talking about, HPP and all of that. Before we do flash pasteurization, we get about 4 weeks. So that's pretty good, but that only has so much reach with 4 weeks. And then, with hard cider, it was, wow, we have real shelf life with this. We can really take our hard work and expand it. And, it's been really exciting. It was kind of a fortunate case of right time in the industry. Angry Orchard and had done a really good job getting people to understand and hear about hard cider and kind of bring it into the zeitgeist of culture. And it was just kind of right time, right place. And we're the fastest growing in the country right now. And I think
you guys had a good year last year, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a great year.
It was a record year.
Yeah, it was a record year. And I think we're the 8th largest in the country now, and trying to do it all with real apples, not from concentrate, and expanding the reach. But hopefully that's just the start of from the field products that we can bring to consumers. That's the hope.
We gotta get you up there, Ann. You gotta go visit.
Yeah, you have to
I've
come.
been to Blake's before, but not for like the tour, which I'm expecting from you when I go there.
Of course.
Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
So you started during the pandemic a subscription service, right?
Yeah.
So talk about, I wanted to know if it's still going to continue, if it's worth doing still, or what's happening with that?
Yeah, great question. It actually grew this year from last year. So, like everyone during the pandemic, everyone's scrambling, trying to figure out how to keep everyone employed. And thankfully, we added jobs, but it was like a weekly, daily pivot. And one of the things that we did were like, okay, we might not have all the people that we normally do. So what are we going to do?
So this is talking about 1.8 million people that are probably not
going to
coming.
come. Right?
So it's like, how do you keep all those people engaged, right?
Yeah. And so we put together, like our marketing team and our farm team put together a really good plan to kind of do, produce box and subscription box. And, it started off just very organically. We opened it up. There was like 1,000 people who signed up, and we're like, and then so we're like, well, all right, we'll cut it off. We'll see if we can handle that. And then, once we were able to get kind of the logistics figured out and how to actually service that and pack those, we've been able to scale it a little bit.
Right.
And so now we actually have 3 different drop-off locations. One at our main location in Armada. We own a franchise called Bakehouse 46, which is Cupcake Station, and it was the Cupcake Station.
So that's all baked goods, right? Gourmet baked goods.
Gourmet baked goods and cakes and cupcakes and all of that sweet treats.
You say all the right things. Go ahead.
And so we have 2 drop-off locations there. So I think we're up to 3,000 people that we do these subscription boxes for
every week.
In Metro Detroit. We just started last week. It was our first week. So, yeah.
They're wild. It's a wild company.
That is so great.
Yeah.
It's a little the numbers are a little overwhelming to just like, oh my gosh. So when it came time to do your hard cider and you've got your orchard and then you've got so do you decide this amount of our product, this amount of what we grow is going to go to that part and then this amount's going to go to this part? How do you think about managing all that to continue to grow everything? Sure.
So then and now, when it was starting off, it wasn't, a real concern because I didn't really think we'd sell a whole hell of a lot of it. Honestly. I was going to be really happy if people came into the tasting room and, it was just that.
Yeah, drink a pint and left.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't really in the scale thinking. And then, what we've kind of, over the last 3 years, we've kind of had to make a little bit of a transition. Apples anytime you plant an apple tree, it's already about 2 years old, in an industrial sense, 2 to 3, and they don't fruit probably most varieties, most rootstocks, until year 5, real production, maybe year 6. So to keep up with you got to be really, have a lot of foresight. And, we didn't really know exactly where it was going. So, we've had to actually pivot our apple sourcing a little bit over the last 2 years. We've had to partner with, Umler Farms on the west side of the state, the Rashes, which is a big apple growing family on the west side of the state. So we've had to actually, for hard cider, procure, apples from the west side of the state to leave apples at our property for all the people coming to visit. So, but we're getting caught up, and I think that, we'll be able to, source more of our product, from our own orchards, here soon.
And the original cider too was basically and correct me if I'm wrong, but the sweet cider they make, that you visit, they're mashing apples, they're pressing, they're making cider.
Yeah.
The original hard cider that Andrew came up with is essentially fermenting that product.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
So it was basically scaling the juice product and putting it in a vat and watching it ferment, and hopefully it tasted.
So
that's how it started.
So that's kind of that's the genesis of most hard cider production. It's just I have juice, it goes bad at some point. Let's control the bad and make it fermentable.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness! So it's all being done in Michigan, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So So are you guys now we just got news today that, that things are starting to change regarding, how we can interact with each other if we're vaccinated and what have you. So do you have a plan yet for opening? Is everything, what's happening?
Yeah. I mean, count our blessings, but I think that it's going to be a very normal year for us. We made the decision in early January that we were going to plan for a normal year, kind of knowing that we'd plan that and let the real circumstances on the ground kind of dictate if we would do that. So, part of our traffic is, we're outside events. We do a big lavender festival, a sunflower festival. The lavender festival is like, Birkenstocks, and you get all the, the essential oils and the whole nine, out there. But, so we planned for a normal year and reached out to vendors accordingly. And, now that we're getting this news, it's kind of like all systems go and everyone's excited. My phone's been blowing up all morning that people are things that we were thinking about doing or on the fence with. Everyone's like,
now you're doing it.
Now we're doing it. And that's exciting.
Give Ann a snapshot of like a bit, like let's say a peak, like a 70-degree October Sunday.
Yeah.
How many people are showing up at your doorstep?
9-mile lines to come in. Like down the road. So here's the weird thing. We built this thing all on our own infrastructure. So like our own power source there, our own waste and septic, things out there to be able to do this. But we're in the middle of like 2-track roads. Like it's all dirt roads around us, and there's like two paved roads to get there. So it's not like it's really built for traffic.
So there's literally 9 miles of people.
Yeah.
So it's like getting across the Mackinac Bridge, in 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like you'll do, but correct me if I'm wrong, like you'll do like 30,000, 40,000 people on a busy day.
Yeah. So we'll do like 20 to 30,000 people on a busy day.
That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of people.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of having a lot of space. And again, the big thing about what we're hopefully going to continue to do a good job and a better job of is the education piece and really connecting, families. We always say, making memories is always in season. And, one of our deals is really trying to be in the memory creation business. And if that's, a mom and dad taking their kids out for their first time apple picking, people asking questions about bees, where do they come from? How does it work? I think, that is such a good thing for society and for people to be connected with their food, connected with the land. It's humbling and all of those good things and positive things. We think that if we can do a better job of teaching that and and educating as the people come out and visit us and continue to we want to be good stewards of that process, and we're just getting started, really.
You can find out more about Blake's Orchard and Cider Mill at blakefarms.com. Our thanks to Andrew Blake for talking with us, to you for listening, and
we would like to thank La Marca Prosecco for their support. From the hills of Veneto, Italy, you can never go wrong with Prosecco, whether it's in a spritz or drinking straight.
Joan Isabella is our executive producer, with producer David Lyons and assistant producer Lisa Brancato, editing by Rowan Nemisto. Production support provided by Studios on the Pond, original music by the Mallet Brothers. This is a production of Detroit's public radio station, WDET.